Directed by Martin Scorsese, real love crosses paths with unspeakable betrayal as Molly Burkhart, played by Lily Gladstone, a member of the Osage Nation, tries to save her community from a spree of murders fueled by oil and greed. I usually don't like watching atrocity movies, but I had to see this to see what Scorsese and Leo have cooked up this time. Safe to say that this may win many awards. The question is, which ones? Some standouts include the acting. The acting was superb, and this is coming from the main characters as well as the supporting cast. The first person that comes to mind when talking about the acting was Leo. Leo plays Ernest Burkhart and takes the audience through the ins and outs and status quo of this small town in Oklahoma. We are him in the first half of the movie. I was just as shocked as he was learning about how things worked in this small town, especially as he was learning about the relationships and why things work this way. And it's not till the third act where he actually takes what he's learning about the town into action. Robert De Niro comes to mind. Did a great job. Played the shadiest man in the whole movie, William Hale. In the beginning, when he greets his nephew, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, he makes you trust him. But soon, everything turns on its head as we discover ulterior motives. I say Robert De Niro's performance was 10 times better than what we got in The Irishman. Molly Burkhart, played by Lily Gladstone, kept us captivated as she goes through love, death, and growing more and more untrusting of her husband, Ernest Burkhart. There were a lot of special guests in this movie, some that I wasn't even expecting to see. A few of them were Jesse Plemons, Brendan Fraser, John Lithgow, just to name a few. Did not expect to see them in this movie. Another standout was the cinematography. This was a beautifully made film. And the Oklahoma backdrop just made you more and more entrenched in what was going on, dealing with the land and the oil that they were pretty much trying to covet from the Osage Nation. But also you see how the space was used. Farms, backdrop to weddings, and even to funerals as we see in the film. Everything was cinematic. From the places that they went in town, everything was true to its time, and you can tell they put in a lot of effort for this. This is just another aspect of this film that I know will, if not win, but definitely be nominated for an Oscar and award in general. The dress, the set pieces, down to the cars, and little knickknacks they had lying around in their homes and other places just brought this story alive. Very well done. Speaking of story, that was another standout, the storytelling. For not knowing what this story was or not having heard the history of this, right off the bat makes you trust Leonardo DiCaprio's character. There are twists and turns that you see for other characters in this film, but Leo's character, Ernest, was always in a gray area, as if to show you that he himself was conflicted about the decisions he was making or following from his uncle. You knew this was about murders that they're trying to solve, but you don't expect it to unfold the way that it does. It becomes a whodunit. Seeing the Osage Nation was also a standout. Just seeing the customs that they do in different points of their lives was very interesting. They're shown having meetings about all the killings, but also sacred rituals when someone dies or is born. In a movie this long, I hope to have seen a little bit more from that nation. For a movie that's 3 hours and 30 minutes long, I actually didn't feel the time, and that was a benefit. I was so enthralled in the story and what was happening next that time just kind of flew by. I did not even feel the length of time, but it was paced beautifully. The revelations came out on time, and just like real life, these things unfolded slowly, and I'm glad that they took the audience through that unveiling slowly as well. As much as I enjoyed this movie, there were only a few letdowns. Let's talk about it. These are actually more questions rather than letdowns that I had after watching this film. I did want to see more of the Osage Nation. From what we got, it gave us a glimpse of the culture. But I was just curious why they would agree to marry the white man if they see whoever they're with ending up being dead or sick. Like, your family's dropping like flies, but the husbands are in full health. No questions? I feel like there's a historical reason that wasn't presented in this film to why the women were not seeing the danger presented to them by their husbands, or even others in the town. Martin Scorsese did say that he wanted to show what creates this slow genocide. And the only thing that I can bring myself to understand is that this happened over a long period of time. And when we're talking about love and having children and making a family, these things get very, very complicated very, very fast. There was even a scene in the movie where, in the first part of the movie, they would show them gathering for a birth of a baby or a marriage, and you see it full of Osage Nation. And then towards the end of the movie, it kind of changes its look. At those events of a baby being born or even a marriage, you see more white faces than you did in the beginning of the film. I thought that was a nice touch. But the question still remains, did no one see what was happening? Another question that I had to wrestle with was, why were the FBI even investigating? We know that back in the 1920s, minorities weren't treated or given the same respect as their white counterparts. They even mentioned the Tulsa riots of Oklahoma, which coincided side by side during that time, the Black Wall Street Massacre. Given the level of racism back then, I'm surprised anyone cared to do anything about it. Although one of the Osage leaders did mention in the film that they did have to pay about $10,000 or a ranger played by Jesse Plemons to even come out. Money talks. We get more uneasiness from the characters that we've been following throughout the film. They know their time is up, and they're trying to do everything to kind of hide and covet the things that they have been doing. Cutting deals behind the table, hiring shady people in order to get them out of the trial and things of that nature. It definitely took a turn for the better, seeing that at least these were being investigated in some way. The only other down point was the end. Martin Scorsese is actually featured in the film on stage reading off what actually happens to William Hale, pretty much ending the movie where film would have probably made it a 4-hour film. I just wish they would have showed what was happening to him while he was talking. I know it was an artistic choice, but that is the only nitpick that I have. Overall, I give Killers of the Flower Moon a 4.5 out of 5. Left me with some questions, but great cinematography, great acting from both the main and supporting cast, a story that's heartfelt and also informative, along with good pacing, walking the audience through the ins and outs of that small Oklahoma town was really helpful and allowed us to immerse ourselves and even see ourselves in some of the characters in this story. I didn't read the book. If I had to learn about the Osage genocide, this felt almost close to actually being the real thing. If you liked what you've seen so far, consider subscribing. And as always, I have more videos right here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.